Good afternoon, class 10. Open your history books to page 9. The subtopic is, what did liberal nationalism stand for? Liberalism is derived from the Latin word liber, meaning free. Thus, liberalism means freedom. However, its meaning was different to different classes of people and also in different spheres. Like, the new middle classes took liberalism to be freedom for the individual and equality for all before the law. But equality before the law did not mean universal suffrage, meaning right to vote. Revolutionary France was the first liberal democracy, but the constitution granted the right to vote and to get elected exclusively to property owning men. Men without property and all women were excluded from political rights. Even the Civil Code of 1804 emphasized or limited suffrage, and women were subject to authority of fathers and husbands. However, the non propertied men and women continued to organize movements demanding equal political rights. Politically, liberalism stood for government by consent. Since the French Revolution, liberalism had stood for the end of autocracy and clerical privileges and wanted a constitution, a representative government through parliament. In the economic sphere, liberalism stood for freedom of markets and the end to state imposed restrictions on the movement of goods and capital. Why did this class of people make such demands? As we have read before, there were countless German speaking principalities which were brought together by Napoleon, who formed a confederacy of 39 states. What was so strange about these states in the light of trade? It was a very complex procedure. Each state had its own currency, weights, and measures. To add to the problem, there were 11 custom barriers. Merchants paid tax at each barrier according to weight or measurement. This involved time consuming calculations. These conditions were seen as obstacles to economic exchange and growth. This new economic class called for a unified economic territory. In 1834, Prussia set up a customs union called Zollverein and was joined by other German states. Why was this customs union important? This customs union abolished tariff barriers and reduced the number of currencies from over 30 to 2. These measures strengthened economic ties and increased trade. The creation of a network of railways stimulated mobility, harnessing economic interests to national unification. We move on to 2.3. A new conservative society that came up after 1815. The early European governments were conservatives. Now, who were the conservatives? The conservatives believed that established traditional institutions of state and society, like the monarchy, church, property, and family, should be preserved. A new conservative group emerged, They realized the changes brought about by Napoleon could be very beneficial. They believed that modernization could strengthen traditional institutions like the monarchy. It could make state power more effective and strong. Furthermore, a modern army, an efficient bureaucracy, a dynamic economy, and the end of feudalism and serfdom could strengthen the autocratic monarchies in Europe. Napoleon was defeated in 1815. The European powers met at Vienna to draw up a settlement for Europe. They drew up the Treaty of Vienna of 1815. What was the object behind the Treaty of Vienna? The object was undoing most of the changes brought about by Napoleon. So, what changes did they bring about? First, the Bourbon dynasty was restored in France. Second, France lost territories that were annexed by Napoleon. Third, a series of states was set up along the boundaries of France. Why did they do this? They did this to prevent further expansion in future. The main intention was to restore the monarchies that had been overthrown by Napoleon and create a new conservative order in Europe. The conservative regimes set up in 1815 were autocratic, meaning rulers who had absolute powers. They did not tolerate criticism or dissent. They curbed activities that questioned the legitimacy of absolute governments. Censorship laws were imposed to control the press. Even books, plays, and songs that reflected ideas of liberty and freedom associated with the French Revolution were regulated. However, the memory of the French Revolution continued to inspire the liberals.